Thanks for staying tuned. Thanks for checking back on my channel. It's highly appreciated. So, sincere communication is the key to a sustainable relationship. You wonder what I mean? To be candid with you, sustaining relationship or marriages that have thrived challenges, marriages that we all admire today, marriages of couples, sincerely happy couples, that have passed decades together. I'm not talking of marriages of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They've thrived mountains, valleys together. Such marriages has nothing to do with being a Christian or not. In actual fact, there are some people existing definitely that they are non-believers, but they are people that have their values, they are disciplined in character-wise. They are people that you can vouch for. Such people, when they know the right thing to do in their marriage, it works. So it has nothing to do with Christianity or with your religion. We all know it's no longer a news that we are in a generation that even the so-called Christian marriages are hitting the rock, heading towards divorce, infidelity, complications left and right. So sincerely, my dear, my listeners, permit me to say, being a Christian, being a man or a woman of God, being a sincere vessel of God is not an automatic ticket to having a marriage that will be fulfilled, that will thrive, and will be successful happily. There are challenges in marriage. I can't dispute that. Even in life, everyone will pass through hard times. But why is it that some marriages are much more successful than the others? I am not here to dispute to you or one keys for sustainable marriages. I've realized something, and with our little experiences, we've realized that everything is centered on just one thing: sincere communication. You wonder what am I trying to say? Why will I just summarize everything that happened in a home, everything to make marriages work? Are all the formulas being said to us wrong? See, there's nothing like 101 formulas, 7 formulas, 8 keys to make your marriage work now. Everything is what? Sincere communication. Be patient with me. Let us break it down. Just stay tuned. Be back in the next 5 seconds. You're welcome back. As we were saying, we are in a generation whereas 90.99% of marriages being celebrated today are based on fantasies. Yes. To impress. Fantasies, unrealistic expectations. We are so lovely, romantic during relationships that we don't communicate. We don't ask questions. Here young couples into my life. I never knew he was like this. I never expected it. It wasn't like this when we were dating. My sister and my brother. It was because you were blind. It was because you were not communicating. You were placing your relationship, your courtship or dating on fantasies. I will keep using the word fantasy because there were things you imagined it should be this way, not the realities. Nothing unexpected happens to any man in life in terms of character-wise. No man suddenly changes. You can fight some negative characters and negative influences, but they are not something that just spring up in a day. It was because those seeds and traits are already existing in you, but at no atmosphere to manifest. So the moment you had people of those similar traits, their influence was able to bring out that particular negative trait in you. That's the reality. There's not like, he was never a womanizer. It was because he changed his job. It was, trying to justify and find excuses for your spouse. Excuse me, it's not true. He had those traits before. You will agree with me that there will have been times where you observe he looks at a lady when passing, but he cautioned himself. He had those traits. It's either we were blind, seeing those traits in our spouses before we married, or we buried them, we neglected them, we overlooked them. Now that there is an atmosphere that brought out or that permitted the materialization in a full expression of those negative traits, we think it all of a sudden jumped from the heavens. No. Someone that is as you can't tell me something that has not been in your life for the past 20 years or for the past 30 years suddenly spring up in a day. It's not true. These are the unrealistic truths we don't tell ourselves. What's the bottom line of those particular expressions that I've been using is nothing suddenly happens or changes in a man's character. Even someone that genuinely got converted does not just jump from being a murderer into an anti-murderer, or someone against murdering in a day. It's a process. You don't just kill characters or attitudes or habits. They are being replaced systematically and patiently. So back to where we are coming from, before we digress just to that area, is there are things we neglect, we overlooked in courtship, that we failed to talk about, but we are living in pretense, trying to impress the other person to accept us. But when we now start living with each other where life, you no longer can cover yourself just as the way you are, it now becomes problematic. You will agree with me that half of the problems that happens to couples that actually brings about tense fight, tense discord, are not external factors like things that are influenced by external factors. No, most times there are things within, things they can't truly open up their heart to tell you, things they can't truly share with a friend, but they keep grumbling about. I never knew it was like this. I never knew she was this bad. I never knew she could not cook before, but she was trying to cook something. But because we are being romantic, there are things we don't discuss about. Since some couples don't discuss about who and who will manage this in marriage, especially in finance. Some couples don't even talk about, do you want to start having children immediately? Do you have an health issue? How many children do you wish to have? Do you love sex? Things like this, we don't truly talk about them. What are your weaknesses? What are the things that you don't like being around that makes you feel tempted? We don't talk about all these things. Especially in the Christian world, it has become so spiritualized that we've forgotten that blood and water is what is running in our veins, not anointing oil. It's not a mandate you're carrying. It's not a auction or the grace that you're carrying that is running in your veins. No, it is flesh, blood, and water that constitutes your entity. So definitely there are things that are weaknesses to you. There are things that you know, this is not my real self, I'm just trying to be. Even some pursue this into marriage. I don't want to make this video long, but I just want to truly tell us, sincere communication. Even when we go through challenges, we assume. That's another problem, issue of assumption. You assume it is this. You assume she is that. You assume a lot of situations, whereas you cannot even talk about them. A lot of people cannot even talk about their finances confidently. Even the issues of their personal family, that is maybe their parents, their siblings, even to their spouse. You try, to polish things. Why? Why are you trying to impress? Things are hitting you up. You still try to cover it up. And I keep asking myself, if you cannot talk openly to a spouse you love, is it God you want to talk to that you don't even see? I wish we can change this narrative. Few times I've met with few of my friends, and this has nothing to do about telling people what they go through. No, but I've always come to a particular conclusion. I was like, okay, you conclude this. Did you talk to him or her about it? I think he should know. I expected her to know. But your spouse is not a witch. And these, later when we talk, they will all admit the fact that truly I saw these traits in courtship, but I neglected it. Nobody's born perfect. Nobody knows it all. From the major thing to the slighter things that concerns your emotion, your needs. Even as a man, which type of hair do you like? Which type of food do you like? Tell everything to your spouse. These are like I said before, things that hits up marriages, things that breaks couples this generation are accumulations of tiny dots. Take it or you leave it. When you think it's a big mountain that confronts couples, they have a way of overcoming that stumbling block. But things I know that it's difficult for couples to overcome these days. Tiny dots that have accumulated to become a gigantic stone that is difficult to penetrate into. And should you have an opportunity to listen to them, or maybe you or your spouse, should you be listening to this, you will see that by the time you call each other to talk, you will be shocked and surprised that after 3 hours of discussion, you will find it difficult to trace out. You're like, okay, so what is now wrong with us? Why did we get it wrong? And individually, sincere communication, you start speaking it out, and you're like, oh, so this was what you was thinking. So this was what you were thinking. So this was what but this was, things like that. At the end of the day, you say like, wow, we never talked about this. We never addressed this issue. You love big houses, your spouse loves small houses, preference. Talk about everything. Even in marriages. Are you listening to this? Are you going through a tough time in your marriage? Most times, prayer works. Prayer works at all times, excuse me. But most times, prayer is not what we need. Those vigil, endless fasting and praying, are most times not what we need. What we need is what? Opening up of our true self. Make yourself vulnerable to your spouse. Ask yourself this question. Can you trust your spouse 100% in every aspect? A lot of ladies these days will tell you, I only want to have just 1 or 2 children. But did you talk with your spouse before getting married? He wants 6 children. And I mean, some men don't joke with that. They'll tell you, I want 4 children. I want 4 kids. Why? Do you know the reason why you also need to talk about this? You don't even know, maybe you might have a delay in childbearing. You don't even know, in talking about it, should you be hearing a man, I want 3 boys and 1 girl? He keeps saying it. Maybe you tease him that, I got 3 girls, 1 boy. No. I want 3 boys and 1 girl. Things like this should send you signal. I'm not saying over-interpreting every circumstances or every discussion. No. But this will prepare you ahead. In fact, guide your prayer that, Lord, please truly give me boy and girl. Because should you unfortunately hope, I won't call it unfortunately because it's beautiful, have just all girls, you already psychologically prepared because you already have an hint of who your spouse is, that this is someone that fancy boys more than girls. These are things we cannot overrule. They are still in our society. They are still existing. So you cannot pretend they don't exist, no matter the rise for equality in our society. A lot of ladies are like, I only want 2. He wants 6. Doesn't want to make me full-time housewife. Doesn't want this. Doesn't want it. But why didn't you talk about all these things before? Why don't you ask sincere questions? I have a friend, he always say, love or emotions buries reasoning. I was like, wow, yes. If that's the only thing you're going to retain today, if that's the only thing you're going to help other youth, upcoming teenagers with, that's come. Emotions override reasoning. So watch out. Why? When we're in love, when we admire something, our emotions is in place. We no longer think. I keep telling people, find a moment in your marriage or your relationship where you love with your heart, you reason with your head, and you think with your mind. That is the place where both of it comes in. You analyze and dissect. But should you fail in doing other things, you are in for a big time trouble and constant misunderstandings in your marriage. When I mean constant, extremely constant misunderstandings. I was talking to my husband. I was like, why didn't you make me breakfast? He was like, are you testing me because I know you don't eat in the morning? I laughed about it. Which is true. What brought in about this? It's because you need to understand, observe yourself, talk about these things, so that things like this will not cause misunderstanding. Now imagine I was like, who told you? But is that just because those times when we were cutting, I was fasting, I actually eat in the morning? You were like, petty things like that can bring out, you're too selfish. You only think about yourself. You only prepare meals for yourself. You don't prepare. I was like, I thought you don't like breakfast. Not knowing that those times you were just always fasting. Some Christians can fast and pray. Fast for the whole Africa. That's just, a slight funny examples, by the way. Actions, misinterpretations, assumptions that lack sincere, just 5 seconds question and answering. I'm telling us today, wherever you are, love with your heart, think with your mind, but reason with your head. Open up yourself to the man or the woman that will be your future spouse. Even in your marriage now, stop hiding things from your spouse. You're killing each other the more. Should you base your relationship on small exaggeration and little tiny lies? Permit me to tell you, you will build up everything on that lie. You keep telling lies to cover up lies. You keep exaggerating to meet up exaggeration. And the most painful thing is, you can never tell a lie 3 times and it remains the same. Because you can't remember what you said 5 years ago when you were dating her. She's like, but you told me that. You have to fabricate another lie to cover up the lie you showed 5 years ago. I just want to say things like this does not build our homes, does not build our relationships. sincere communication. Ask questions. Questions to the simplest. Do you like eating with cutleries or you love eating with your hands? Some men detest ladies that even eat, some of our local African foods that you eat with your hands. Some men don't like it. It's not pride. They just tell you, how will you be eating and, everything is stained. And they got despised with that. They got vexed with, tiny things like that. It is your spouse. It is the person you want to share your future with, not someone else. So you need to talk. You need to understand each other to the simplest factor. Don't pretend, ladies especially, don't pretend to impress a man. You will be in for a big time trouble. Don't accept everything he says just because you want to be the best for him. You want him to consider you. Make yourself vulnerable. Let a man know you for who you are. Yes, if you think he's going to take advantage of you, definitely he's not the right person. Move. Definitely, if he wants you to pretend to impress him so that he won't take advantage of you, definitely he too is also pretending. He has a lot of skeletons in his wardrobe. It's vice versa. Because the person too you're pretending to impress, if such is sincerely sincere, we observe some flaws that things are not adding up. Stop dreaming of unrealistic expectations of marriage. Marriage is not beautiful ever after. Marriage is not romantic even for the first 5 years. There are a lot of people for the first 2 years, it was catastrophic in their marriage. But they took that time to grow to know each other, which is acceptable. But some never scaled out of that. So stop imagining, the first 5 years of my marriage, I need to be lovely. Excuse me, sister, wake up. Stop thinking he's a man. He should know his responsibility. He should know. What if he doesn't know? It's not a crime not to know. It is, however, a crime to pretend to know, whereas you don't know. Help him. Talk about him, dear. Now a woman needs to make her hair. A woman needs this. Actually, you need to help me with this. Tell him. You love to be helped in the kitchen. Tell him. Don't assume he should know. He's not a witch. You're not also a witch to know his needs. He loves it when he finish eating and you do this, you do that. Communication. And I'm going to be stopping here. I just hope you will share this video with a friend, and let me hear your feedbacks. I so much want to hear your feedbacks, and I'm also ready to learn. But like I said, for me, I've summarized everything up, from my marriage experience and friends too, that we keep walking on this journey together. As a Christian, I'm actually a Christian. But I'm a very, very realistic Christian. No, I don't spiritualize things that needs character, that needs wisdom, that needs information to be able to manage. That's what we'll be able to come across and conclude that really communication is the key of every marriage, of every relationship that's going to scale through and be happy and be sincere. I mean, sincere without hiding of where you can be yourself, without feeling ashamed, without feeling the pressure to impress someone. I don't mind learning from you too. Just stay tuned and I'll see you next time.